Hi. Right.
Right.
You're with Scott. This is Battery Exhausted, my vlog. It's midnight. It's always midnight. That's my catchphrase. This is your right ear, this is your left ear. Okay, so I wanted to do a quick vlog on June the 1st. Of course, this is all anachronistic. We've started to upload things out of time. Oh, what's going on? If you really want a daily vlog where I switch on the camera and just, try and get reduce it to 20 minutes worth of vlog every day, just to show you what I'm doing every day. Can do that, it's a possibility, but you've got to request it because it's a lot of hard work and I've got lots of other hard work to do. So, I want to just quickly talk about something. Vegan, actually. I've got two things to talk about vegan. One is the hardest thing about being vegan, right? The hardest thing about being vegan. I'm going to tell you what I think. That's coming up. Stay tuned. Today I'm wearing a coat, a big outdoorsy coat, but I'm wearing shorty shorts as well because it's been poor weather in the British summertime, proper British summer weather. It's been raining. I had the dog out in the woods today and it was so wet. All the fields and all the grasses about to here, and it was all just across me. My entire clothing was wet from my midriff down to my feet. In my wellies it got wet, my undies got wet, everything was wet. And I did think to myself while I was walking the dog in that situation that I could just wet myself now and no one would be any wiser. But I didn't. I managed to maintain control over my bladder. Right, that's just a little update about what's been going on today. Vegan stuff. First thing I wanted to talk about was this dude that I found on the BBC News, this dairy farmer who's betting on a different kind of milk. And what he's doing is, he reckons his eczema was cured by a particular kind of milk, which is kind of fucking loopy. You get all these anecdotal evidences, and you'll get this in veganism as well, this particular berry or this particular whatever cures people. But just because I'll quickly outline this, lots of other factors are variables in why your eczema might be cured. And we don't know anything about this guy. He might have been to the doctor and tried lots of different cures and then none of them have worked. And then he starts drinking this milk and it clears up. But it might be that injection he had or that cream he used about, 2 weeks ago has only just started to take its effect. So that's a possibility. The other possibility is, like I said, there are other factors in his life and it could have been something else and his eczema was cured and cleared up, but he happened to be drinking that milk at the time. So he's put two and two together, but he's put the wrong two and two together. Who knows? Maybe this milk does cure eczema. But it sounds unlikely, doesn't it? It sounds unlikely. And that anecdotal idea that this is a lot of the way that people back up these health products with an anecdotal piece of evidence. Somebody got cured of cancer, somebody got cured of eczema. But what science seeks to do is, anecdotal evidence like that is kind of useless because, like I said, it's not controlled. There's all these other variables. Who knows what it was that made the difference? Nobody really knows. So what science does is it takes that into a laboratory setting and then it conducts experiments whereby, and I'm against animal testing, right? And check this, I don't know what possesses people to test on animals because, they're docile, but what a horrible thing to do. What a horrible thing to do. But we've got loads of people in our society, and this is a bit of a weird suggestion, and it's not like my number one best suggestion in the world, but we've got lots of people in our society who we've locked away for life for things like murder or child abuse or whatever, and there's quite a few people who we definitely know have done these horrible things, right? And they're just sitting in a prison and we're paying for them to exist as taxpayers. Okay, it's a horrible existence in itself, and we'll come on to crime and punishment in another vlog because I've got ideas about it. But it seems strange to me that we need to breed animals, innocent animals, who have done nothing wrong to anyone, so that we can test on them for the good of humanity, for medical science, when we've got a load of people who we're deliberately inflicting a form of abuse on. We're removing their freedoms and we're locking them up and, we're inflicting that abuse. And in America, sometimes they're put to death, So we've got this system in our society of this abuse of humans based on a punishment, as a punishment thing. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't lock people up, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, do something to penalise those who have committed these grievous crimes, of course. But what I'm saying is maybe we could use them better than to just lock them away. And when I say it's an abuse, I'm not saying, oh, poor them, they're abused. But fucking wankers what they've done. And then, but it's also as a vegan, as a good moral ethical person, I find it difficult to settle that idea that yes, someone's done something wrong, but that we should exact a harsh punishment. It feels like it goes against my vegan ethics. But these people, while they're locked away in these prisons, they're an opportunity to test all these different things on, aren't they? Because they're actual human beings. So, and you control their entire environment. So, that's already set up, just waiting for people to test their drugs or whatever it is, their eczema creams, rather than putting it in the eyes of animals and burning animals and doing horrible things. That's just a mad suggestion, That's just a mad suggestion. Don't get hurt up on that. That's not the main thing in this video. The main thing in this video is the most difficult thing about being vegan, and that's coming up after we talked about cows, right? So, dude has made these cows. Don't know how he's made them. He's bred them specifically to produce a milk that contains a particular kind of protein called A2. And other countries have rejected the spurious scientific claims that A2 is any better or has any of these health properties this guy or other people that perpetuate the idea are saying. So the New Zealand government have taken down adverts because they say the health benefits can't be proven scientifically. Australia's had problems with the advertising. It's an issue. But my biggest issue is that the dairy industry itself, and I'm talking from the UK, the dairy industry is failing. It's totally failing. It's not just the animals that are suffering now, it's the people in the industry that are suffering. You've got farmers committing suicide, literally killing themselves because the industry they work in is driving them to suicide. So there's something really fucking wrong, really wrong with the dairy industry. And this guy and his different breed of cows, what I feel he's doing is he's swimming upstream against a rising tide of public opinion. He's struggling and clutching at straws, clawing his way up the bank as he slips down into the flow of of despair if you're a dairy farmer, but of positivity if you're a vegan, right? And I think what he needs to do is let go of that, let go of these tired ideas and this thing, I've got to somehow make my cows make me some money. Let go, relax, dude, relax. Don't be a dairy farmer. You've got so much more to give. You're capable, it's obvious that he's capable of doing something inventive, creative in the context of the milk production. Okay, it's also torture and abuse in terms of veganism and cows, but he's capable, isn't he? He's capable of putting his mind to something and thinking around a problem and, making something better. So if you just let go of the cows, let go of this thing, or maybe he could become like a cow sanctuary or a vegan sanctuary. He's got a farm, he must have some land, and he's got the intellect and desire and passion to do this thing and drive it forward. So what I'm saying is, let go, dude, let go. Move to veganism and be a positive force in your own life, in other people's lives. And just, this A2 milk thing, that's not going to succeed. It's not like all the people that currently drink cow's milk, they're not going to suddenly be like, oh, I changed the way I drink my milk. There's other alternatives, aren't there? There's soya milk, there's this, there's that. There's other reasons that other milks are healthy. So if you're into health reasons, you're going to go with the healthier reasons, the soya milk, the oat milk. You're not going to go with the animal milk, even if it's been adapted and changed. People don't like genetically modified foods, let alone modified cows. I don't know how he's modified them to produce this milk, but let alone modified cattle. The BSE crisis we had, the mad cow disease. People aren't going to be like, look at this new kind of milk, brilliant. He's going to struggle, and he's lucky that the BBC have chosen to do a piece about it, because the way I would see it is that all the other dairy farms, and I think this is what's happening in Australia, is that other dairy farmers the people with the money who are pushing their agenda, buy milk, drink milk. The people who are buying the milk, the supermarkets and things like that, the supply chain, you know, they've all got their agenda and they're really desperate, and this guy's going to come in and compete with them. They're going to use their lobbying money, which is the way they work. They're going to give money to companies and or through avenues to government people. I'm not going to get too specific about how lobbying works in this video, but essentially they're going to spend money to make sure that governments and media outlets promote their message. And that when it comes to not court cases, sorry, the dog's coming in here. Hello matey, hello, no, come this way so everyone can see you. There he is, look, doggy man. And when it comes to, you want your dinner, don't you? Why don't you go in your bed, go in your bed, go on, in your bed, in it, yeah, good boy, lie down, good boy, stay. I'll do this talking to the people on the internet and then I'll feed you your dinner, so stay. He is, what was I saying? Yeah, they lobby the governments for their agenda, and that means that when bills get passed in the Houses of Commons and things like that, that it's not always the opinion of the people that is spoken by the MPs, but it's the lie down, stay, but it's the messages from the big companies with lots of money. That's what lobbying is, that's how it works, and that's why our political system doesn't enable us to have any control, and it doesn't enable the people to have their ideas and messages heard. It doesn't become top of the agenda. They pretend they do that when they want our votes, but really when they talk about things in Parliament, they don't represent us, they represent bigger companies, lobbying, agents, Pepsi, all that, and that's bad. Yeah, that's bad. Right. So what I'm saying is that in Australia and in these places already the advertising for this kind of milk has been scuppered, and I think who's going to be lobbying for that but the people who produce normal milk? So, and they're quite powerful. Dairy, the industry in itself sees a competitor, they seek to shut it down. That happens to the soy milk and stuff like that as well. In my supermarket recently, soy milk was moved from being next to all the other kinds of milk to being in its own vegan section, and I think that's crap. Because rather than people who normally would buy a pint of milk and not think, seeing an alternative, this is different, and it's in with all the other stuff, so it's quite, it's a normal product. Maybe I'll try that. Instead, we've got a vegan section, and now all the stuff, whilst it's easier for me to find, is out of the way of the public eye, and it's cordoned off in a thing that says you're different. You see, I'm doing the vegan section. What normal people think when they're walking around and see someone over there in the vegan section, it's a different dynamic, isn't it, to the way they think about vegan items being presented as normal food, because vegan food is just food. It doesn't need its own section, does it? It's food. It's all the other stuff that the flesh needs its own section, because that's a bit weird. So yeah. So I'm going to get on to the most difficult thing about being vegan in a minute. But one of the difficult things is that prejudice, isn't it? That we're all long-haired hippies with no shoes, and and giving us our own section, which is all full of lentils and gluten-free and all that. It pulls all that negative stereotyping instead of integrating veganism with the rest of society. Okay. So this guy's convinced of the milk benefits. I've discussed the cow's milk. What a fucking nightmare for the cows. And what's it doing on the BBC website? As a big advert for this product. It's not so good, is it? Oh, that's bad. And the hardest thing about being vegan is not being a wanker. I've written here, I just made a quick note the other day. In a world where a child can be killed by a gorilla in a zoo, and the main thing that's talked about in the media, on social media, by the people, is the parenting skills of the mother, or whether the zoo is responsible for their safety aspects. That a group of intelligent, ethical, modern, switched on, plugged in, connected, educated people, that the thoughts of the society at large are about the parenting skills, and not to say the big message that we've all come together, that we all agree on, that, you know, is in our heads straight away. The big message is not, what the fuck are we doing with zoos? You know, that's some messed up shit, isn't it? It beggars my brain. I can't understand it. Why the fuck have we got zoos? Like, we imprison animals in these shitty little confined spaces. And if you've ever been to a zoo, most of us have, we got taken there by our parents and school trips and stuff. You know, the the gatekeepers in society indoctrinated us that it was a good idea. And there's always that underlying feeling of shame. I don't think anyone can visit a zoo without their humanity recognising there's something not quite right here. These animals, they're not in the best place for them, you know. And then you kind of forget that idea because everyone's, you know, it's a zoo, everyone's having fun, the kids, and like, it's that cognitive dissonance that you need to be able to consume animal flesh and say you love animals. Why the fuck have we got zoos? We don't need them, do we? We don't need to confine. So I've been to see a gorilla in a zoo. Like, what's that done for me as a person? It doesn't benefit me in any way. And then if you're saying it's educational or whatever, then brilliant. You know, we can educate people. We can show them the gorillas on the television, on the computer, or you can even visit their natural habitat. We have the means, but we don't need to entrap them in a fucking zoo, a business that makes money off captive animals. You know, that's so old hat. It's just a dead idea, as dead as that fucking gorilla, which, you know, he shouldn't be dead and the whole concept should be. It's the same with SeaWorld, it's the same with anything. And the other angle, but what about the conservation? Well, don't fuck up our world so that we have to keep, the only way that a white rhino can survive is if it's confined to captivity. Like, if you've got a problem with the conservation angle, then fucking sort the world out, you know? It's a symptom of that. So it's not going to make it any better. We're just going to have to end up like the only place that you'll see wild animals is in confined breeding programs. And then what's the point in having animals? You know, there's no benefit to anyone, is there? So fucking hell, the zoo is out. And then I've written this, and this is kind of controversial, but I'm just going to say it anyway. What kind of a world do we live? And first of all, I'll do the caveat, right? And this is what I mean. It's hard to not be a dick. The hardest thing about being vegan is not being a dick. Because when you say that zoo thing to people, they get on their defensive and their high horse. Oh, well, yeah, but, you know, I took my children to the zoo. I'm not a bad mother, am I now? And, oh, God. You know, it's hard to impart these messages and be nice. And I'm probably being a bit of a dick now, aren't I? So that's what I mean about the hardest thing about being vegan is... We'll finish this with the hardest part about being vegan talk, but there's one more thing I want to say, and that's, you know, I'm going to sound like a bit of a dick, but I think it's really sad that woman lost her life up that mountain. You know, I think it's a real shame. I've always thought it was sad when mountain climbers lose their lives, but I've always thought they're a bit insane for going up there as well. Like, it's an achievement, yeah, but you are putting yourself through such risks. I mean, when you're up Everest, you are dying. Your body is shutting down. And it's just a matter of how long it takes before you die. Any mountain climber worth his salt will know that. So yeah, it's sad that she died, yeah? But at the same time, I think she's put herself in this situation, she knows the risks. So it's sad, but it's not as sad as like a child being killed when they're crossing the road or something, is it? You know, it's, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, or if a motor racing driver loses their life, you know, they're putting themselves through that very, very dangerous situation and they know the risks. So yes, it's sad, but it's not as tragic as some other things because they chose to do it. It was their will. They wanted to take that risk. And yes, sad they died, but, you know, they put themselves up the fucking mountain, yeah? Right. She did it to prove something about veganism. And this is where it blows my mind again. You don't have to prove anything. You know, the only thing you need to prove, you don't have to go up a fucking mountain to prove that vegans aren't weak. You don't have to become Eddie Hall, world's strongest man bodybuilder, like, I can't feel my neck, to prove something, unless you think there's something to prove and you've got like insecurities about it. And that's the shame of it, is that you've been made to feel so insecure that you feel there's something you really need to prove. Like, you don't need, if you're a vegan, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Like, that's not what life's about. It's not about showing people and yeah, fuck you and I proved this. And the only person you have to prove something to is yourself. And I tell you what, if you're a vegan and you're watching this, you've already proved it, because by not eating the animal products, by not adhering to the norms of animal abuse, by breaking from those norms, that's already a massive, massive achievement, a struggle, something that you've had to cognitively work out and then follow through in your actions. And as we all know as vegans, it's a continual process. You think you've done it all, and then someone pipes up with your dog food's not vegan, or someone pipes up with something about sugar, or there's all these, do you know what I mean? So like, you keep progressing and you keep working on it, and that's the achievement. Like when someone sees that it's difficult in society to be a vegan because it's not all laid out for you. So when you go to a restaurant and you have to go without and other people see that, like, your abstinence is strength, the strength to say, no, I believe in this, I'm not just going to go along with it. Yes, I might suffer because I don't get a fair choice on the menu, but my suffering compared to the animal suffering and the human suffering in the world is nothing at all. So you've already made that point, and that is what needed to be proven, and it needs to be proved to yourself, not to the world, but and I've written here, except the only thing you need to prove, and I actually believe this, and this is a difficult one, is that vegans are not dicks. And this is the hardest part. You've got something that you're passionate about that is meaningful and it matters, so of course you want to talk about it. People ask you about it. You go for a meal, or you buy a coffee, and you have to mention it, because otherwise you might end up eating or drinking animal products. So the world's not laid out for you, no one understands, so you have to keep explaining it. And then you get into the realm of being a dick. Vegans always talk about their veganism, or I'm eating here, I don't need to hear this, or whatever. And the truth is, it is the rest of the world that are dicks, and not you. They're all being dicks. But if you present yourself as aggressor, as offensive, or I don't give a shit, then people are going to look and think, oh, what a dick. And then they're not going to think veganism's cool, veganism's modern, forward thinking, all the compassionate people, all the reasonable people, they're vegans. They're just going to think all the dicks are vegans, all the weirdos and the, I don't give a fuck party. And it's not very vegan to not care about other people's feelings. This follows through to the way you spread the message. There's a disruptive, negative way of projecting the message. And whilst it feels like a little victory to you, we shouldn't be fighting with everyone. Like, it's not us versus the carnists, because we used to be the carnists. I used to eat animal products. I'm sure many, many vegans did. There are only a very small number of people who were born vegan, in a vegan environment and raised that way. So don't be horrible to people for not being far enough along. Help them along. They're in our team. We just have to show them that. And so by being a dick, and it's hard because, like I said, you do want to present these messages. People do wind you up, and you do want to argue with them. And it happens within the vegan community. Within the vegans on Facebook, they're all arguing. And even that, people can't get the context, because on Facebook they get all het up. I can't, I'm not getting into why that's silly. And silly is the right word, just silly. It's not the important things. And so the hardest thing about being vegan is not being a dick, is imparting the message in a positive way, is keeping your temper, is keeping your patience, holding that down in the face of constant belligerent ignorance. And the more enlightened you become, the more offensive the world seems, in the face of all that, being as nice and personable and be as compassionate as I would with my vegan principles toward animals, towards humans, knowing that they are also animals, and quite confused animals as well. So the hardest thing about being vegan is not being a dick. And I think I do this in my film work. When I've made an edit, when I've finished a film, I do one pass. It's always in my mind anyway, but I do a pass where I watch it and I think, is this ethical? Am I saying this in the right way? Is it aggressive? Is it projecting the right messages? And if I were to see this and had an alternative viewpoint, would it make me cross and fucked off and angry and da? Or would I go, oh, see your point? You know? So that's important. It's going to be hard for me to do that pass on this video because I've ranted, haven't I? So I'm just going to upload this to YouTube as is with the rant. And the irony, just like my other videos where I'm talking about photography tips and shooting it badly, the irony is that I am being an example of what I'm saying not to be. But hopefully if someone watches this, they will understand it because I've explained it and it's in context. And these things really do rile you up when you're enlightened, you know? You can never expect to meet someone, argue with them, shout at them, and have them go, oh yeah, I think you're brilliant, you know? Because it's just that human thing, isn't it, of conflict. People get defensive, they put their, I do this because I used to fence, they put their fencing mask on. You know, they get ready for the fight. And we don't want to be fighting with people, we want them on our side. Oh my days. And so that guy with his milk, if he was here now, I would say all those things like I said. I'd say, you know what, I think you've done a really intelligent, you've thought around the subject, you're very ingenuitive, you're business minded, you know, you've got all these qualities, and it's just a shame that they're being, you know, wasted when there's this opportunity, the world of veganism, to do something better for the world, for yourself, you know, to try and paint it in a good way, and to reach out to people rather than sort of, you know, butting heads. And so this video hopefully will serve to do that with the vegans that we've had arguments with on Facebook, because I'm never pernickety cross at somebody for personal reasons. I've got social, ethical and philosophical points to make. You know, I want to discuss that big issue stuff, the thought processes, the sociology and the psychology, and people just like, they don't see it, they don't understand all the time. I don't know. It's context, isn't it, you know? You get no context on a Facebook post. And it is funny that already these memes, the norms, have been perpetuated, that vegans talk about veganism all the time, that meat eaters put bacon on it, you know, that thing. But what that does is it allows them, it allows the meat eaters to, what's the word? It validates their position if we perpetuate the stereotype, doesn't it? So, you know, you've got to be careful to think about that, to be aware of how you're perceived by those that you're willing to convince. Be good, my little Pukkos. Be good.
The dark side. Dark side. force is with you, young Skywalker.